There are 4 hours and 11 minutes of video, and I have watched every second of it more times than any person should. Not because I want to, because it is evidence. And because for a long time afterward, I kept going back into it looking for the moment somebody could have stopped this, and I kept finding the same answer, which is that somebody did. 12,000 somebodies did. They tried for 3 straight hours. They typed the heat advisory into that chat. They counted her water bottles on camera and did the math out loud for her. They begged her by name at every single waypoint to turn around, and she read every word of it, and she smiled into her phone, and she said the things she said all day. You guys worry too much, lol. Welcome back to Doomed Departures. What you are about to hear is a composite story. It is built from real trails, real advisories, real chat logs, and the real and specific way this canyon takes people in July. But the young woman at the center of it is an invention, assembled from 100 versions of the same afternoon. No real person is named here, no real account, no real handle. She is a dramatization. The heat is not, and neither is the thing I most want you to understand, which is that a person can be watched by 12,000 people and be more alone than anybody I have ever pulled out of that gorge. This was the South Kaibab Trail on the south rim of the Grand Canyon in the middle of July. I need to give you 3 facts about that trail before we start, because all 3 of them are in the chat log posted by strangers, hours before they mattered. Fact 1. There is no water on South Kaibab. None. Not a spigot, not a stream, not a rest house tap, nothing all the way down. Whatever water is on that trail arrived on somebody's back. Fact 2. The Park Service does not suggest, it states, that in summer you do not hike below Cedar Ridge. That is not a guideline for the timid. That is the line drawn by the people who carry bodies out of there. Fact 3. That trail has almost no shade, and it is an inverted mountain, which means the easy part is first. You walk down into rising heat feeling wonderful, and then the entire actual work of the day, a vertical mile of climbing, waits for you at the bottom in the afternoon when it is at its very worst. She knew none of that when she started. Chat knew all 3 inside the first 20 minutes. She was in her 20s, in a magenta crop top, and she was good at this. I want to say that clearly because the lazy version of this story is that she was stupid, and she was not stupid. She was charming and quick and funny on camera, and she had built something real out of that, an audience of people who genuinely liked her, and that is not nothing. She had planned this. She had a hydration pack and 2 bottles and a hat and a phone on a gimbal, and she was going to stream the whole thing, rim to river, live, because that was the video. That was the thing nobody else in her feed had done. She went live at 7:58 in the morning. The stream archive starts there, and it does not stop for 4 hours and 11 minutes. At 8:14, 16 minutes in, the first person types it. I have the exact line. Someone posts, "Hey, there's a heat advisory today, please be careful." And she laughs in the friendly way she has and reads it out loud and says it is 70-something degrees right now and feels amazing. And she holds the phone up to show the light coming across the canyon, and honestly, watching it back, she is right. It does feel amazing at 8:14 in the morning on the rim. That is not a lie. That is the canyon doing exactly what the canyon does. That is the first thing you have to understand about this whole recording. She was never lying to them. She was reporting, honestly and in real time, exactly how she felt. And how she felt was a completely useless instrument for measuring what was happening to her. That is not a figure of speech, it is physiology, and it is the reason chat could see this and she could not. In air that dry, sweat evaporates the instant it leaves your skin, so you never feel wet, never feel like you are working, never get the soaked and gasping signal a humid day would give you. You feel, if anything, comfortable. Meanwhile, you are losing well over a liter an hour and drinking maybe half that because thirst lags badly behind actual need, and the gap compounds quietly every hour while you feel terrific. 12,000 people were reading numbers on a screen. She was reading her own body. And on that trail, on that day, the numbers were true and the body was lying. And there has never been a human being alive who instinctively believes a number over their own legs. By 8:40, she has passed Ooh-Ah Point, which is the first named stop, and it is the first place chat starts to organize. Somebody pastes the actual National Park Service text about not hiking below Cedar Ridge in summer. Somebody else posts the forecast for the Inner Gorge, and it is a number with a 1 in front of it. And here is where the thing that killed her starts, and I need you to watch it happen, because it is so much stranger and sadder than people think. The stream started blowing up, not despite the worry, because of it. That chat got fast and loud and urgent, and people started sharing it. Come watch this girl. Is she okay? Somebody stop her. And the number in the corner of her screen started climbing in a way it had never climbed for her before. Her viewer count went from a few hundred to a few thousand in about 40 minutes, and every single one of those new people was arriving because they were alarmed. She had no way to tell the difference. That is the horror at the center of this. On her screen, concern and success look absolutely identical. Both of them are a fast-moving chat. Both of them are a number going up. Both of them are strangers typing her name. 12,000 people were trying to save her life using the exact same interface that had spent 2 years teaching her that a fast chat means you are doing great. The most successful stream of her life was an alarm going off, and she experienced it as applause. At 9:12, she reaches Cedar Ridge. This is the line. This is the one the Park Service draws, the last easy exit, the place where a hot July day is still a nice hike and a story. She sits on a rock, she drinks, she reads chat out loud, and there is a lot of it now, and it is not subtle. Turn around here, this is the cutoff, please. And she does the thing she has done her whole career, which is engage with the bit. She grins and says, "You guys worry too much, lol. I've got so much water, look." And she holds up a bottle for the camera. And chat, God bless them, does something that I still cannot get over. They start counting. You can watch it happen in the log. Strangers start doing the arithmetic she is not doing. Someone types, "That's like 2 liters, you need way more than that." Someone else does it properly, posts the actual math, how much you lose per hour in that heat, how many hours she has been out, how many hours are left. And the answer comes out wrong, badly wrong, and they post it over and over. People who have hiked it are typing paragraphs. A guy says he did this trail in June and it nearly killed him, and he is fitter than he has ever been. Somebody types, in all caps, "The climb out is the part that kills people." I want to tell you about one of them specifically because there is always one, and in this log, there is a person I ended up thinking of as the one who tried. I am not going to give you the handle. It does not matter, and they do not need it, but you can track them through the whole 4 hours. They show up at 8:31 and they never leave. They are the one who pasted the National Park Service summer text. They're the one who did the water math properly, twice, showing the work. When chat got mean, and chat did get mean for a stretch, calling her names, that person told them to knock it off, that being cruel would only make her dig in, that they needed her to actually hear this. They typed calm, short, specific things all day, over and over, at every waypoint, never once losing their temper. They were right about every single thing they said, from 8:31 in the morning until the screen went black. Nobody in that stream was more right and nobody was more useless, and those two facts sat inside the same person for 4 hours. She reads that one. It is in the archive. She reads it out loud in a funny voice, and the chat is going insane and she is laughing and she keeps walking down. She could still have turned around at Cedar Ridge. She had water, she had legs, she had hours. Everything after Cedar Ridge is arithmetic. Let me stop and ask you something, because this one is about all of us and not about her. When was the last time somebody who cared about you told you something true, and you heard it as noise because it arrived in the same format as everything else? The friend who says it lightly, the comment that scrolls by, the text you skim. Tell me in the comments, because 12,000 people wrote this woman the truth and none of it landed, and not one of them was wrong. At 10:26, she passes Skeleton Point, and there is a moment in the archive there that I cannot really explain, and I am not going to try. Chat has gone quiet-ish, or as quiet as 12,000 people get, and somebody types just, please. Not an argument, not a fact, just please. And she looks at the camera, and there is a half second, maybe less, where something goes across her face. I have watched that half second 100 times. I do not know what it was. It might have been nothing. It might have been the last time she was in contact with the truth. And then she smiles and says the river looks so close from here, and it does. From Skeleton Point, the river looks close. It is not close. It is another world away, and every foot of it has to be walked back up. She could still have turned around at Skeleton Point, barely. That was the last one. Around 11:40, she starts up, and the second half of that archive is very hard to watch. She stops narrating. That is the first sign, and it is the one that scares me the most, because she was a professional, and narrating was as natural to her as breathing. The stream just becomes a shaky camera and a rock wall and breathing. Chat notices instantly. Chat is now nothing but people asking her to sit down, to find shade, to call for help. And there is a stretch in there where somebody types over and over every few seconds, call 911, call 911, call 911. And somebody did. It was them. Of course it was them. The one who tried, the one who had been there since 8:31, the one who did the math and kept chat civil and never lost their temper for 4 straight hours, is the person who eventually stopped typing and picked up a phone, because typing had failed and typing was all they had until it was not. They had never met her. They lived a long way from Arizona. They had no obligation to her of any kind beyond having watched her be funny on the internet a few times. And they spent their afternoon on hold with a national park trying to describe a stranger's shirt to somebody who could go and find her. That is how I got involved. That is how any of this got to me. A stranger somewhere in another time zone watching a live stream on their lunch break picked up a telephone and called this park about a woman they had never met and gave us a trail name and a rough position and a description of a magenta shirt. And that call is the single reason anybody was looking for her at all. She never called. She never had a moment where she believed she needed to. 12,000 people knew she was in trouble before she did, and one of them did the only thing on earth that could still have mattered. The stream cut at 12:09. It just ends. There is no drama in it, no scream, nothing you could put in a trailer. 1 second she is climbing, and the next second the archive stops because she had climbed into the section of that gorge where the signal dies, which happens on that trail, which is a thing every one of those 12,000 people learned at 12:09 in the worst possible way. The chat kept going for hours afterward into a dead stream, thousands of people typing to a black screen. I have read that too. I probably should not have. There is something in that log I was not prepared for. Once the screen went black, the chat stopped arguing and started praying. Thousands of people who had spent the morning yelling facts at somebody switched, all at once, to typing hope at a rectangle that could not receive it. And that is when it landed on me what those 12,000 people actually were. They were not an audience. They were a rescue party with no legs. They had every single thing you need to save a life except the one thing that matters, which is the ability to physically put a hand on somebody's arm and say no. They had the information, they had the will, they had the numbers, they cared genuinely, thousands of them. And all of that care had to travel down a wire that could only deliver it as text. And text was the one form she had been professionally trained to skim. We were already moving by then. I want you to know that. From the moment that call came in, we were moving with water and everything else, and we know that trail, and we are good at this, and we still lost. Because a rescue is a race that starts when someone knows, and everybody knew at 9:12 except the one person who could still do anything about it. Here is what that search is actually like. Since the stream does not show you this part, and nothing ever does, it is hot. That is the whole story of it. We go down into the same gorge that is killing the person we are looking for, carrying more weight than they were carrying, moving faster than they were moving, and the canyon does not give us a discount for good intentions. Every one of us is doing the same arithmetic in our heads on the way down that chat was doing out loud at 9:12, except we are doing it about ourselves, because a rescuer who becomes a second casualty has not helped anybody. We had a trail, we had a description. We had a rough time in a rough place, which is more than we usually get. And it was all courtesy of a stranger on a lunch break, and it was still not enough. Because by the time a person knows to call for someone like me, the thing that is going to happen has usually already been decided hours earlier up on a rock in the sun at a waypoint where the whole day still felt wonderful. That is the part nobody puts in a video. The rescue is not the story, the rescue is the receipt. We found her that afternoon on the climb, and I'm not going to describe it because she was a person and not a piece of content. And because there is nothing in the details that the timestamps have not already told you better. It was the heat. It was the water she did not have, and the climb she had been warned about in writing by strangers for 3 hours. Her phone was with her. That is how we ended up with the archive. If any of this has landed, then do the small thing that carries it further, like this video, so it reaches somebody before their sunrise hike instead of after. Subscribe so you are here for the next one. Not for me, and not for a number on a screen, which is the whole point of this particular story. Do it so that one more person, somewhere, reads a comment from a stranger who is worried about them and stops for 1 second and considers that the stranger might be right. Here is the whole of it, and I've thought about it for a long time. 12,000 people watched the warnings she could not see, not would not, could not. Because every one of those warnings arrived through the exact same little rectangle that had spent 2 years rewarding her. And inside that rectangle, a person begging you to save your life and a person telling you they love your content look almost the same. They are both just text going by. That is the trap. And it is a completely new kind of trap. And this canyon has been killing people for 100 years without ever needing one this clever. She was not ignoring them. She was performing for them. Those are different things, and the second one is worse, because performing for someone is a way of looking directly at them and not seeing them at all. Her audience and her rescuers were the same people. Sit with that. The relationship that killed her and the relationship that tried to save her ran down the same wire at the same time from the same 12,000 strangers, and the wire could only carry one of them. And the one it carried was the one she had been trained to hear. There are 4 hours and 11 minutes of video, and it ends at 12:09 with no ceremony at all. But the part I actually cannot shake is not the ending. It is 9:12. Cedar Ridge. A young woman sitting on a rock in the sun, in a magenta shirt, feeling absolutely fine, holding up a water bottle to prove a point to people who loved her, while the fastest chat of her entire career scrolled past her face carrying every single fact she needed. She had it all. It was right there. It was on her screen, in writing, from people who were right. She just could not hear it because it was coming from the crowd, and the crowd was the thing she had learned to play to. You guys worry too much, LOL. That was the last thing she ever said about it. And they did not. They worried exactly the right amount. They were the only ones out there that day who were. Next time, we leave the heat behind for the cold water, where the warning does not come from a chat and does not come 6 hours early, where the danger comes up to meet you in 90 seconds and takes the strongest person on the boat first. Until then, if somebody who has no reason to lie to you tells you that you are in danger, and it arrives on a screen in a comment from a stranger you will never meet, do the one thing this woman never did. Take it out of the rectangle. Read it like a person said it, because a person did. This has been Doomed Departures. Stay safe, and we will see you on the next one.